We'll talk about the history of the building. The building was built in 1914 as a Lutheran church, and in 1977, the people who owned Christian's Restaurant, which was the Galatoirs, and also the Bergeron families opened Christian's, which was one of the top 5 restaurants for 30 years until Katrina. They shut it down. The family was getting older, the parents who owned it, and they thought they would reopen it, and it sat until 2009 when Marie Delon opened it as Redemption, and we bought it from her in 2016, well actually the end of 15. We gutted the building, and a lot of problems we found. Foundation was falling apart over here, not because of the building, because of the infrastructure of the city. The sewer line had collapsed, and we saved the building. There was a lot of destruction, and we completely redid the building.
Right. It's beautiful.
Thank you, but it's
Land was occupied, was owned by the Baroness de Fontalba. She was a very, very rich landowner back in the late 1800s from Paris. Owned a lot of this property, which I guess used to just sort of be, just swampland, farmland. Bought all this property, and she was the original owner. But she also the one who brought in the wrought iron from Paris.
Mm-hmm.
So she's responsible for the look of New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the wrought iron, the French style, she brought that from Paris. So she's really responsible. And the Fontalba apartment buildings are the oldest operating apartments in the country. So it's very in there, historical landmarks and everything.
Yeah.
So she owned it, and she had a lot of tragedy in her life. And you help me with the story here because it's been a while since I've heard it. So basically, her father-in-law, right? She was part of the Almonaster family. So
Right.
Almonaster has
The
a lot of
wealthy
ties
family,
here.
and she married this man, and the father-in-law was after her money. So he shot her.
She went back
Oh
to
my
Paris,
God.
and this is a real story. I mean, this is all. I mean,
In
this
Paris.
is not just rumor. I mean, this is history, right?
Uh-huh.
So she went back to Paris, and he shot her, but he didn't kill her.
But he thought he did, and he committed
He
suicide.
committed suicide. She survived, but anyway, then she came back to New Orleans, and But so when we had part of the Dead Files, we had a medium come in here because we're like, well, where does this come from? And what's interesting. In reality, I'll be real honest, I hadn't watched the Dead Files before. I'm not really into paranormal shit, but there's a lot of weird things going on here. What they do, when you watch it, they have 2 parallel paths, and one is they go through the historical side. They have a detective from New York that goes down to the archives and all the facts of the city, right? Which I like, because I'm more the factual side. And then they have the medium, which does her own track, and then they put them together. So what they do is, basically the detective was down at the archives finding out who owned the property, what things went on, what things happened in the neighborhood. And then the medium comes in here basically without knowing anything about it. She doesn't know it's a restaurant, she doesn't know the name, so she's not influenced by it. And she says, I feel the presence of a woman. And she draws
An
the
older
pictures
woman.
of this woman
With red hair.
Yeah, she and basically, so she sits down and says, well, here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a red woman. She's angry, and she's mad at men. And then he's like, well, could it be this person? He pulls out the newspaper articles. This is Baroness de Fontalba. She was killed by her father-in-law, and she hates men for that reason, and she had red hair, and all these things are like, wow.
But the key to
Look
it,
at
which
this guy.
we knew it was true because she used to wear a dark wig. And you have to search far and low to find out she actually had red hair, and she knew this. And also we found out from the crew, she had never been here. She didn't know she was coming to New Orleans till she got to the airport in Los Angeles. And a lot of stuff on the show they filmed 43 hours for 43 minutes. Like one of the things is she hates cold. And because they imprisoned her, obviously there was no
Like
heat.
the chateau was really cold.
And you know what happens here?
Chateau.
Every bit of our refrigeration in this, air conditionings, coolers, walk-ins, constantly is breaking. When we bought the building, we had an inspection. The previous owner, one of the air conditioners was completely reworked. We come in and all of a sudden we hear this horrible noise. The compressor blew up.
Oh,
The whole
wow.
system is refrigeration.
Every week we have air conditioning problems. We don't have that anywhere else
She
like
doesn't
this.
like the cold, and she seems to like female managers better, so we use the female managers anyway, but we just for whatever reason she doesn't like men, probably because he shot her.
Yeah.
So she does better with
Have you
females.
ever seen female work or anything?
Yes, of course.
People
In fact, when we got a call from a woman named Celeste Bergeron, her family owned the building, and Christians. We had never met her and didn't even know who she was. She said, I grew up in that building. 30 years my family owned that building and the restaurant. She goes, I'm so glad somebody's doing something because we know it's haunted. We experienced it for 30 years. She came, we went over what happened during her period and our period, same things. Same things.
So they had issues with the air condition.
They had issues with everything being
everything,
tripped on the
especially, and
stairs.
people saying
They tripped her. They tripped. We go upstairs.
And so one of the
They
things,
tripped
of course,
Celeste coming down.
and of course, you know, I'm being the skeptic, and I told Maria, who's the previous owner, who's wonderful.
She had the same experiences
she's wonderful,
too.
and I said, look, you know, all of our employees are saying all these crazy things, that they're seeing these things and they're feeling this person. It's like they're just a bunch of nuts, you know, basically saying all this stuff. She says, oh, no. That's we had to have an exorcism. It got so bad. I'm like, what? They had an exorcism. The previous owners had an exorcism on the property.
Wow.
In fact, you'll meet Willie, our chef, by the way, he trained with Emerald. He trained with Wolfgang Puck in Los Angeles.
Awesome. Oh my God.
He was not a believer. Ask him now if he's a believer. Yes.
On 2 occasions, I was standing in the kitchen and I just heard this. It wasn't a scream, but it was like just a woman's voice. Not a whisper, but just making a weird sound. I heard it the first time, yeah, no big deal. So then I heard it the second time, and I'm thinking, okay, it must be my first experience with this paranormal.
Happened with the voice. You just
I heard it. I just kept working. I mean, I wasn't gonna run out of the building.
that was the last time you heard it.
Yes. Yeah. And it's only been twice. Yeah.
Pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah. Just keep moving. Like nothing's going on.
Plus, we have video footage.
Wow.
Oh my God.
I'll show it you.
The customers ever get bothered by it?
Well, yes, because her father-in-law was here, and he caused a lot of problems for us. We would be, okay, not this table, the next one over. Amy identified that he was right there in that area. That was the father-in-law. He was notorious for flipping a glass of water over. And we would sit there and watch. There was a tray of waters, 4 waters, and only one would flip over. We would watch it. We would and when we would watch a champagne bottle open by itself on the bar, we would watch a beer can explode just sitting on the bar.
Wow.
Every time we would come, there'd be nobody in here. For some reason, glasses would break. Yeah, we experienced a lot.
Does everyone know that works here?
Yes.
Pretty much. Yeah. They're okay with it. I mean, like, I think
No, it's
better.
good. It's good now. It's good.
It's better. Before, when we first opened, it seemed like we had a lot of issues with people saying, "Oh no, so I felt somebody in here. I felt spooky."
It's better, except
somebody, pulling on the
refrigeration.
door.
Like stage?
We did.
You did?
We did.
That's what
Yes.
calmed it down?
I think maybe that helped. We had, we did
We had
sage
everything.